Kierkegaard said that prayer or praying doesn't change the mind of God, but it changes those who pray. And I often maintain when I talk to my agnostic and atheist friends that the belief in God is more important than whether God exists at all. I was watching Greenleaf the other day, and I'm going to try and do this without ruining it or spoiling it for you who haven't seen the series or haven't seen it till the end. There is a scene where a young man was moved to step forward in the church that he was worshipping in as the invitation for a life renewed, for a life reborn, for the slate to be wiped clean through God, of course, was offered to him in a way that he wasn't able to do for himself. And tears was running down his face. His family spotted that he was moving forward towards the front of the church to accept this hand, that this figurative and literal hands has been extended towards him. And they started crying. They started hugging, embracing, laying hands on him, praying for him, crying with him. My own experience of such a scene as I explored the more evangelical spectrum of the faith after I moved to New Zealand was of great discomfort. At the time, the socio-cultural conditioning, the emotional conditioning of the country of my birth, the culture of my birth was still very strong. It remains strong today, but a lot of it have been unconditioned, so to speak. I've been in New Zealand for 30 years now. That's a whole generation. But after the initial knee-jerk discomfort of setting yourself apart from the crowd and this public display of emotions, those are very hard for me as I was growing up most of my adult life. I mean, the fact that I grew up in a Roman church, highly ritualistic, highly ceremonial, very structured and very restrained, doesn't help. I've never had experience of evangelical churches in the country of my birth, so I don't know how to compare. But so growing up in the Roman church may have a lot more to do with that, I don't know. But the reason why I mention this is because I become extremely choked up after all that subsided. As I put myself in the shoes of the character, I suddenly felt extremely choked up, and I didn't know if that was because so much of the fact that the character finally accepted the God of his family, the God who loves and forgives. But more because I suddenly realized, as the story of the character unfolded in the series, that at that moment, believing a God who forgives, being offered a God who loves, allowed him to forgive himself, allowed him to love himself and wipe the slate clean and move forward in a way that he was not able to do for himself. And the penny dropped for me. It sounds pretty obvious to some of you, but if I believe that the belief in God is more important than whether God exists, if I believe what Kierkegaard said, that prayers and praying doesn't change the mind of God, but changes those who pray, surely believing in a loving and forgiving God allows you to forgive yourself. And that is truly salvation for some of us. Truly. That can save us. So then, does it matter if God is truly loving or truly forgiving?